to be what we are, we need to love and love madly. Because we only know what we love madly. The only sanity is to love mad. We only love what we know. And when we know, we begin to feel. Because the universe is love intelligence. The universe feels and the universe feels love. So it's only when I know I can begin to feel. There's no question in my heart, mind, body that there is a before October 7th world and there's an after October 7th world. And that's not because October 7th was the moment when one of the, maybe the primary enemy of the Palestinian people, the primary enemy of the Palestinian people, a degraded version of fundamentalism, right? Hamas brutalized the feminine, tortured the feminine, raping 7-year-old girls and cutting off their arms as they were doing it in front of their mothers, just to get a sense of what we mean so we don't turn away from it. Right? So the enemies of the Palestinian people, Hamas, were holding the best of Palestinian aspirations hostage, performed a set of acts of butchery. But that's not why October 7th is a watershed moment. Tragically, there has been butchery in the world before. Right? Unimaginable tragedy in Iran, the killing of girls by the Iranian regime, pulling girls literally out of high school. And of course, Iran is backing Hamas. But horrors in the battlefield in the Ukraine, right? And the Putin attempt to destroy Ukraine, which we've talked about before. Yemen, Sudan, the Congo, child soldiers. All of this taking place in a larger context of a world that's filled with beauty and filled with goodness and filled with Eros and filled with wonder and filled with delight. It's all happening at the same time. The reason, however, and this is number two, the reason that it's a before and after the world in terms of October 7th is because the utter incapacity to do sense making was radically exposed in a kind of unimaginable way, right? An utter breakdown of the sense making apparatus. When the Holocaust happened in Europe, it took decades for people to have the temerity, the audacity to deny that it happened. Within a couple of days, we were experiencing denials. This actually didn't happen. And then in the last week, the denials have picked up steam, and now the formal position of, an unimaginable amount of people on TikTok and on various forms of social media is that actually these things didn't actually happen. And the enormous amount of first person, second person, visual, eyewitness testimony, digital evidence is essentially dismissed. So you have a denial happening in a few weeks. But then number two, you have an inability to discern, right? To actually follow a storyline, to make distinctions, to make not a kind of primitive taking of sides, but a kind of hierarchy of value. You have a deafening silence in which major Western universities all over Europe, all over the United States, the reporting of BBC and some of the French news outlets is so shockingly in violation of elementary sense making that it's almost unimaginable. It's almost unimaginable. And I'm not going to talk about Israel today, and I'm not going to talk about Hamas today. So I'm not going to go into 10 examples of where and why. I just want to feel it with you. There's this breakdown in sense making and the ability to make sense, right? To actually come to understand, simple capacities to know, right? To make simple distinctions. And so I want to talk today, if we can, about how we know, about how we make distinctions, about how we do sense making, because that's everything. And our capacity to respond to the meta crisis, of which the breakdown of sense making with implications for billions of people on the planet potentially, but the breakdown of sense making around the events of October 7th and the ensuing events, what's happened in the last several weeks, the breakdown of sense making is but one expression of an utter breakdown in any kind of shared story of value in the world. And there is absolutely no question in my body, heart, mind that the future of reality depends on our capacity to articulate a shared story of value in which everyone's at the table. China's at the table, and Russia's at the table, and the United States is at the table. And Islamic fundamentalism finds its way to the table. And postmodern desiccation, disqualifications of reality find their way to the table. We need a new story of value grounded in the nature of cosmos itself. We need a cosmic, galactic story of value, which is, to borrow the word from Aramaic and French, unfuckable. It's an old French derivation through the Aramaic. It's unfuckable, meaning it's so grounded. It's so well done. It's not declared. It's not dogmatic. It's not fanciful. It's not conjecture. It's the deepest voice of she. So that's what we want to do. Okay? That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a series of weeks. And this is for my friend Elena. Elena, I know that we're in a series of weeks around story, which are unimaginably important, which we're going to complete. We're going to also do this parallel series of weeks around how we know what we know. How do we know things? Okay, that's what we want to talk about. And in some deep sense, we've begun that conversation the last 2 and 3 weeks as we've talked about Hamas and Barbie and the New Universe story. And specifically, the section last week and the week before, where we talked about the New Universe story, is very clearly the beginning of this conversation. So it could be part of that conversation, that set of conversations, or that's part of this set of conversations, however we work that. But this is unimaginably important, right? How do we know what we know? Okay. Right. So we ready? So David, give us, holy brother, an evolutionary love code, and maybe read it twice in slow so we can track it with you, brother. Okay. Big hand for David.
All
Take
right.
it aside, brother.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Good morning. Good evening, everyone. So here's this week's evolutionary love code, and I'll put it in the chat box. A wise man once said, "What we think is less than what we know. What we know is less than what we love. What we love is so much less than what there is. And to that precise extent, we are so much less than what we are." To be what we are, we need to love. We only know what we love. We only love what we know. When we know, we can begin to feel, and when we feel, we can begin to think, and only then can we begin to engage in the sensuality of sense-making. Love and knowledge are not separate. Eros and Gnosis are not separate. So I'll read it again. A wise man once said, when we think, what we think is less than what we know. What we know is less than what we love. What we love is so much less than what there is, and to that precise extent, we are so much less than what we are. To be what we are, we need to love. We only know what we love. We only love what we know. When we know, we can begin to feel. When we feel, we can begin to think. And only then can we begin to engage in the sensuality of sense-making. Love and knowledge are not separate. Eros and Gnosis are not separate. I turn my word back to you, Dr. Marc.
So let's see if we can kind of try and understand it. How do we know anything? Okay. What we think is less than what we know. Does everyone get that distinction? Right? So there's what we think, that's my kind of cognitive mind, but it's much smaller than what I know. Right? So what is knowing? What does it mean to know? Okay. And what we're going to try and look for here, right? Our goal is to try and understand what is the common sense of reality. Common sense. Common sense means that underneath declared dogmas that are actually strategies for the hijacking of power, often dominator forms of power, not sacred forms of power, almost always. Underneath those kind of declared dogmas, which we understand that they need to be rejected, underneath those, there's a kind of common sense. Now, what does common sense mean? Common sense means that there's a common field of sense between us. And sense is sensual. That's what sense means. Sense means that underneath the superficialities and the vagaries of surface thinking, there's a deeper big mind. Daishin, there's a deeper big heart, big mind. There's a bigger mochin de gadlut in the Aramaic tradition, expanded heart-mind consciousness, which we all share. There's a common sense. So our common sense is the beginning of our common sense making. Does that make sense, everyone, so far? Right, so in other words, we live in this time between worlds and this time between stories. In the space in between, there's a meta crisis. The meta crisis operates in about 15 or so vectors, from artificial intelligence to methane gas under the tundra, right? To, and the list goes on. In order to respond to the meta crisis, we need global coordination. We can't have global coordination without global coherence. We can't have global coherence without global resonance. We have to resonate with each other, which means we need common sense, right? We need common sensuality. Common sense creates a sense of intimacy between us. So common sense or common sensuality means there's a sense of common intimacy. There's a shared intimacy between us. When we don't have that shared intimacy, when we don't have that shared sensuality, we don't have that shared resonance, we can't create coherence and we can't coordinate, and the meta crisis quite literally destroys us. And of course, Israel Hamas is just an expression, it's one expression of that meta crisis. So the incapacity to do common sense creates an intimacy disorder, a global intimacy disorder. So the intimacy disorder can only be healed through common sense, which is a shared story of value. Now stay close, stay close. So the shared story of value is the structure of reality. And it's the shared story of value is the sensuality of reality in narrative form. The shared story of reality is the story of reality's sense, the sense making of reality, or the story of reality's sensuality, because you can't split between sense and sense making and sensuality. Reality is a story, and we live in that story, and that story is both sensible and it's also sensual. So it's a story of desire. Reality is a story of desire at its core. And I want to get to what that means. Okay? So let's go back for a second. So in order to respond to this meta crisis, we need common sense. Common sense means a shared story. A shared story has to be a shared story of value. Right? A shared story of value. And a global intimacy disorder means there's no shared story of value, but of values that are grounded in cosmos. Not contrived values, not dogmatic values, not values claimed by the Shambhala masters or the Hebrew masters, values that the greatest masters incarnated in their body, hearts, mind, that actually in a democratization of sensuality, we can all access directly. We can directly and clearly access these values in our body. So a shared story of value is required to overcome the global intimacy disorder, which is then required to create global resonance, which is then required to create global coherence, which is required for global coordination. Now, a shared story of value is a shared story of desire. That's my script of value is my script of desire. And we're used to thinking of sacred texts as scripts of value, but actually underneath sacred texts at their best are scripts of desire at their very core. So let me try and go slow for a second, okay? That's part 2. Try and go slow. Can we go slow, everyone okay? We with us? Okay, we're going slow. We've done lots of steps here. So we said sense making and sensuality are deeply related. Let's just follow that for a second in language. All right, to love is to know. Right? To love God is to know God. So for example, when Maimonides and Aquinas and the medieval schoolmen talk about loving God, whatever that means, they directly link loving God and knowing God. There's no split between love and knowledge. I love what I know and I know what I love. There's a virtual circle and a virtuous circle and a circle that moves between love and knowledge. If I don't love you, I don't know you. And if I don't know you, I don't love you. In Hebrew, the very word yada, Y-A-D-A, yada means to know. And to know means, and Adam knew his wife Eve. So knowing is carnal. We call it in English carnal knowledge. Right? He knew her biblically, is a phrase in English. I don't know what the Russian or Italian or French or Dutch equivalent is. But to know is to know carnally, meaning all canons of knowing, every canon is carnal. All knowledge is carnal knowledge. Or said differently, there's no essential split between Eros and Gnosis, right? So if I try and split between Eros, which is sensuality, right, the field of the sensual, which is the place in which I do sense making. It's the matrix of common sense. It's the common field of the sensual from which no one is excluded. Everyone's in the circle of the sensual. It's a common sense. So it's only common sense or common sensuality or common eros that can yield what? That can yield a common gnosis, a common knowing. And that knowing becomes a new story of value, becomes a new grammar of value. Because eros encodes itself in story. That's the nature of reality. Eros is always eros in action. Evolution is love in action. Evolution is eros in action, seeking, desiring ever more eros, ever more sensuality. So let's just really let's understand this, right? So it's going to step where it goes gently. I want to just understand this together kind of crazy deeply, okay? Crazy deep. And let's just go step at a time. So what is reality? Right? Reality is, and we're not in a rush, we're relaxed. Have a glass of wine. Everyone have a glass of wine? Let's lift our glasses. We're in Plato's symposium, right? The wine is flowing. We're delighted. Feel my body, feel my belly, right? Feel my pulsing, feel my gentleness. Let's raise our glasses. L'chaim, salud, cheers. We celebrate. We celebrate reality today. Today's a celebration. And let's go deep inside, okay? So reality is eros. That's step one. That's what reality is. Okay, reality is eros. That's what it is. What is eros? Let's go slow. So eros means something very, very particular. There's an eros equation. What's eros? Eros is a story. It's a movement of reality. It's not static. It's dynamic. Eros is this deep ground of being at home. This essential beingness of cosmos. I'm at home. I'm grounded. I'm welcome in reality. I can rest. And then eros is movement. It's becoming. Eros is the spaciousness of being, and eros is the ecstatic urgency of becoming. Everyone, take a little time, get up, get some wine. It's time for a little wine, right? Or if you're kind of in an AA program, get water. If you've kicked Diet Coke, get Celsius, right? But let's drink a little bit, friends. Okay, let's raise it up here. Let's go. So let's get this. It's beautiful. Okay, so here we go. So reality is eros. Eros equals the experience of radical aliveness. Right? Eros equals the experience of radical aliveness, desiring ever deeper contact, ever deeper touch, and ever deeper wholeness. That from that touch, from that contact, a new emergent, a new possibility, a new wholeness is generated. That is eros. That's the structure of reality. Now, what does that mean? And again, we're going so slow. Slow down. You move too fast. Right? I want a man with a slow hand. So we're slow eros today. Okay, slow. So the interior experience of eros is this desire for contact, ever deeper contact, and ever greater possibility, which is ever greater wholeness. Right? When we come together as separate parts and we form a new whole, that wholeness creates new possibility. Sometimes that possibility is a baby. Sometimes that possibility is a manuscript. Sometimes that possibility is a new emergence, a new force. Sometimes that possibility is a phenomenology of eros. Sometimes that, right? But now when we come together, we create, right? Eros is creative by its nature. And all men and women are born equal, but all men and women are also born erotically creative. So eros is desire. Now, this desire for deeper contact and for greater wholeness, greater possibility, is really a desire for what? Anyone? One word. It's a desire for intimacy. I want intimacy. Because what is intimacy? Intimacy means a new shared identity between the parts. Two people come together and they were living separate lives, and all of a sudden they begin to experience themselves as part of a larger whole, a new wholeness, which can have many forms. So that's a new intimacy. There's a new shared identity in the context of otherness. I don't disappear, you don't disappear. It's not fusion, it's a union. So the script of desire of reality is written in the Eros equation and intimacy equation. What the Eros equation and the intimacy equation are is their scripts of desire. So the first script of desire is the script, and the script of desire is a script of reality itself. The sacred texts of the great traditions, those are later scripts of desire. We'll talk about them. But they're commenting, and they have to emerge from, and they have to be aligned with the script of desire of reality itself. Does everyone get that? Let's go slow. So the Eros equation, say it with me. Eros equals the experience of radical aliveness, seeking, moving towards, desiring ever deeper contact and ever greater wholeness. Right? Now, let me just say clearly, you can't have ever greater wholeness if your heart doesn't break for every innocent person killed in Gaza. Right? You can't have, right, greater wholeness if you're in an ethnocentric position. You want to perpetuate your egoic ethnocentric entity for its own sake, independent of the scripts of reality. That's a false script of desire. An ethnocentric script of desire that views the other as outside the circle of Eros is a script of desire that violates reality. It's a false script of desire. It's a pornographic script of desire. Right? Does everyone understand that? Shadow versions of ethnocentric consciousness, that other, those that are outside of their ethnocentric circle, are pornographic, degraded pornographic scripts of desire, making snuff films, right, in which the other doesn't have a place. Right, of course. And if I can't condemn the horror of Hamas, right, that violates the scripts of desire of reality herself, well, then I'm not in the love story. I'm lost in a kind of pornographic narrative. Right, so let's just ground this here for a second. So let's go slow. Let's go careful. Let's go careful, brothers and sisters. Let's go careful, brothers and sisters. So Eros equation is a script of desire, number one. Got it? The intimacy equation is a script of desire. Number two. What's the intimacy equation? Intimacy equals shared identity. It's this desire for shared identity. Right? There's a desire for shared identity in the context of otherness. It's relative otherness, right? Times mutuality of recognition. We recognize each other. Times mutuality of feeling. We feel each other. Times mutuality of value. We have a shared field of value. Times mutuality of purpose. We actually have a shared purpose, right? A deep sense of a shared purpose. So reality is a field of Eros, or a field of desire. That field of desire desires what? Ever more intimacy. So the story of evolution is Eros. Evolution is Eros in action. What is the action of Eros? Everybody together. What's the action of Eros? Desire. What is Eros desire? Value. Now stay close. Eros desires value. Or said differently, Eros is value. And Eros is the desire for value, and value itself is Eros. Because what is value? What does Eros want? What does Eros desire? Eros desires more wholeness, more contact, more shared identity, more mutuality of recognition, more mutuality of feeling, right? More mutuality of value, more mutuality of purpose. So Eros is the core value of Cosmos. That's what Eros says. Eros desiring Eros, which is more intimacy, which is more desire, which is more mutuality of desire, and more mutuality of feeling, more mutuality of recognition, right? More contact, which generates more wholeness, which is more shared identities. Does everyone begin to feel the loop? It's so deep, it's so beautiful. So in other words, Reality is Eros value. That's what it is. Eros value. And Eros value itself is the love intelligence of reality. The word love itself is a desiccated word, which has lost its meaning. Right? We tried to have the word love stand independently of all words, and we thought it would survive. Right? We killed all the goddesses except for Aphrodite. But then we realized we didn't know how to worship at her altar, because you can't kill all the gods, or you can't kill the field of value and then just leave love standing by itself. Love is an expression. Love is actually Eros. Eros is a value of cosmos. That's what it is. That's its very nature. And what is Eros? It is ethos. It is value. There's no split between them. Eros is the desire for deeper contact. And deeper contact means contact that honors, that has mutualities of recognition and mutualities of feeling and mutualities of purpose and mutualities of value. Right? It's intimate contact that then generates new emergence, means it generates greater wholeness. It's not just that Eros speaks value. Eros is value. Did you ever get that? You can't split the words Eros and value. It's not that Eros is a value, and it's that Eros is value, and value is infused and flamed with Eros. Does everyone get that? Eros value, I promise. Okay, promise. Okay, so someone put Eros value in the chat box so we can see it. All right, Eros value. Now, let's put it as one word, Eros value. It's Eros value. So value is erotic. And Eros is value. Value, how do you know value is erotic? Because value arouses our will. Value arouses our will. We're moved by value, right? We're in the middle of COVID, and the entire liberal community, right, is in the classical vaccine narrative. And everyone believes that to leave our houses could endanger millions of people. And then George Floyd is killed, and the entire liberal community spills into the street to protest for George Floyd, and they should have, and that was good. And I joined the protests. Those are good protests. But why? Because we were aroused by the violation of value, which aroused our will. So Eros arouses our will. Right? And we throw everything else to the side, because that's what we do when we arouse will. And will is ratzon. R-A-T-Z-O-N. Ratzon is will. Ratzon comes from the Song of Solomon in chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. Seduce me after you, narutza, I will run after you. And I will run as roots, which means run, which also means ratzon, which means my will is aroused, meaning my higher will, my essential will, right, is aroused, and I throw everything which is ancillary, everything which is superficial, everything which is exterior, everything which is not essential, I throw to the wayside, but I cross the certain moment in sacred sensuality, and I'm now all the way inside, and I'm in the experience of value, I'm in the experience of Eros. There is no difference between them. When I have crossed that place, mashcheni acharecha, draw me after you, right, the beginnings of coming together in Eros, and then you cross that line, narutza. Now I'm running towards you, right? When I'm with the right person in the right place in the right context, I don't stop and ask, is there value in the world? No, this is value. Eros and value are one. So value is erotic. Value arouses my will. It aroused our will to protest for George Floyd. Value arouses our moral will. Value arouses our political will. Value arouses our economic will, right? And it's only value that is arousing. Does everyone get that? That's critical to understand. And this is something the techno-feudalists who want to create a techno-totalitarian world in order to protect against existential risk don't understand. They think value is not real. And because value is not real, you have to control the whole world. Can't let anyone know you're controlling them or they'll rebel. Give them an illusion of freedom. Put everyone in a Skinner's box, meaning a box in which you pull the levers on the web and undermine people's free will and control the masses of humanity. But we need to do that, they say, not because they're evil. I reject the demonization of techno-totalitarians that appears all over the web. That's might be part of the story, but it's far from all of the story. right? All of the story is they feel that value is not real. And since value is not real, it's not arousing, right? It doesn't arouse will. And so we can't actually appeal to a new story of value. We can only control. End bracket. Let's keep going in our direction. Let's stay really, really close here. Let's stay really close, everyone. Let's stay really close. Okay? Okay? So the experience you have in Eros, right? In other words, I'm kissing my beloved's shoulder. We're holding hands, right? Just that simple moment of contact, right? Because Eros and sensuality is not some sort of kind of caricatured penetration of a particular kind, right? Different conversation. Eros means contact, deep contact between us, contact of the heart, contact of the body, contact of the mind, right? Desire means I desire to make contact. And when I make contact, but let's take the central image of the Song of Solomon, I make contact, right? It's that moment in which I've crossed the line. I'm on the inside. I don't ask, is value real? I don't have to make anyone realize value is real. I realize it directly in my body in this moment. I don't stop and say, what's the value of the world? I don't stop and say, what's the meaning of life? Right? When I'm in those 2 minutes before, right, ecstatic explosion, and I'm all the way on the inside, right? You've drawn me after you in the language of the text of the Song of Solomon. Mashcheni acharecha, I've been drawn after you. Now I'm running towards you. Stay with me. I'm running towards you. I'm running towards you. Just find that. Stay in that. Don't let your mind wander. Stay in that, right? Find that one time in your life. That one time in your life. Stay inside of it. That's right. Intrinsic. Stay inside of it. That one time in my life where I was on the inside, I had crossed that line in sensuality, and I was moving towards expression, fulfillment. I was on the inside. That was value. Don't let your mind wander. It's a lazy mind. Stay centered. That is value right there. That's the experience of value right there. I know it in my body. I know that that's valuable. So that experience of intrinsic value lives in the experience of Eros. Eros is value. And value is filled with Eros. And there's no split between them. They're one. Because again, what's the Eros equation? Okay, stay close again. Eros equals the experience of radical aliveness, desiring ever deeper contact. So now I'm desiring ever deeper contact. I'm coming closer, right? I'm desiring greater wholeness, meaning I'm desiring more intimacy, so that for this moment, we're going to come together. We're not going to disappear. We're not going to fuse, but there's going to be the sense of shared identity and the depth of our conversation, the depth of our lovemaking. And the depth of our lovemaking might be me kissing your shoulder. It might be the depth of our eyes locked in each other, right? Right? Oh my God, right? That's it right there. That's it. That is value. That is the experience of value right there. Right there. That's it. Done. Story over. End game. I'm enlightened. That's a direct experience of value. That is the Eros value of reality that actually moves quarks, 3 quarks to come together. That moves quarks go up, an up quark and a down quark, which create a proton or a neutron. It moves protons, neutrons, and electrons to create, right? They desire each other. They create an atom. Atoms desire each other. They create a molecule. There's unique configurations of desire and intimacy, which are unique elements. Macromolecules from molecules, because there's desire for molecules to make contact, to touch each other, right? To love each other and to create a larger whole. And then when you even intensify the intimacy of macromolecules, if you read carefully, for example, Stuart Kaufman, right, in a book that I asked you to get, Jamie, I think on page 60, his very, very technical scientific description of how macromolecules become cells is actually a description of what I would call the intensification of desire, which creates intensified intimacy. Now, you want to find that, David? Find it in yourself. Right? When your desire intensifies, you're throbbing, your heart's throbbing, your body's throbbing, right? You're quivering open, your heart, body, mind, any one of the 3, or all of the 3, right? Take your wish, right, is quivering open, is throbbing open, is pulsing open, right? And your desire intensifies, your artistic desire, your creative desire, your embodied desire, your tumescence, you're throbbing, you're pulsing, right? You step inside, right? And you've got value. Value. It's value, right? Can you feel that? It's value, right? And in that value, I have this huge devotion to other, right? Other can't be brutalized. Other can't be tortured. Other can't be excluded. Other can't be indiscriminately, right, ignored in any way, because my desire is to make contact and to experience with you intimacy, which is mutuality of pathos and mutuality of purpose and mutuality, right, of recognition. We recognize each other, we feel each other, and we have the shared value, which is more eros and more intimacy. So there's this implicit devotion in desire. Desire is both, and let's stay really close, desire is both the healthiest form of narcissism, meaning I'm fully alive with myself. It's the healthiest form of autonomy. When I'm filled with desire, I'm most in myself, and it's the healthiest and most whole form of devotion. I'm utterly devoted to you, right? In other words, in the ecstasies of desire, the split between autonomy and communion disappear. There is no ethnocentrism. There's just the field of eros. There's just the field of desire. Right? That's the script of desire of cosmos. That's what cosmos is. That is the script of desire of cosmos. I am that desire. Not tattvam asi, thou art that, in the sense of I'm just awareness. No. That's a mistake. It's why I've argued against that for the last 20 years. Right? I'm not just awareness. Right? I am the field of eros desire. And eros desire is the field of ethos. Wow. And I know that. Right? Because I'm madly loving you, I know you. Right? I recognize you. To recognize is to know. I know you. I see you. Right? Love, eros, is a perception, and that perception arouses my love. And my love then arouses my perception. And love and knowledge become a circular movement. And eros and gnosis, yada. Right? Yada, to know. So it's so deep, right? So reality is a script of desire. Okay? That's what reality is. So the eros equation and the intimacy equations are scripts of desire. And what we're doing together in telling this new story of value, what is a new story of value? It is the best narrative of desire, the best script of desire that we have available, based on the best sciences in reality today. Now, a fundamentalist dogma will be a sacred text that actually degrades the larger field of desire. So, for example, I'll just give you one example. Okay, beautiful. And the great Muslim thinker, Islamic thinker Rumi understood this so well, and Hafiz understood this so well. Right? But I'll give you a text from the 13th century from the Zohar. The Zohar says, Istakel be'oraita, she gazed, it's the erotic gaze. She gazed at the Torah, the sacred text. Ubara alma, and she manifested reality. So stay close. That's step one. And what is the sacred text? So in the lineage tradition of Solomon, the sacred text is the names of God. Writes Nachmanides, Nachmanides, writes Nachmanides in the 13th century. All of sacred text is nothing more and nothing less than a particular script of the names of God. That's what sacred text is. It's the names of God. Okay? Now, what's the name of God? So let's take a look for a second in the chat box. All right, Krista, stay close, right? Let's put the first, just the simple name of God, no human body, just the simple name of God in the chat box so we can see it. I mean, it's just stunning, right? It's stunning. Let's take a look. Let's put the name of God. Let's see the name of God. Can we see it? Yeah. Okay. right? And let's see if we can also find the classical one that we use at the same time. I'm going to use this one for a second, but find for me also the classical one, okay? So this is the name of God, which is Yud, but it's written one on top of each other. I'm going to show you the classical one, right, in a second as well. So the Yud enters the Hey, Yah, as in Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and Hallel is the ecstasy of Yah, of the Yud entering the Hey. And Krista, when you're ready, see if you can tell me when you're ready, put the other one out. That's perfect. Yud Hey Vav Hey. So Yud Hey Vav Hey, there's a dimension of the divine that's beyond all names, right? But then infinity, the infinite no thingness, discloses as the infinite intimate. Divinity is not only witness and aware of all, but actually divinity is the stirring of desire. One of the qualities of the infinite is the desire for the intimate. So the Yud, we're going to go from the Yud on the, if I'm looking at my screen, it's on the right side of my screen. So the Yud enters the Hey, the Yud enters the Yah. So now breathe it in. Breathe, breath. I breathe in, then on the out breath, Yah. That's the breath of reality. Breathe in. Yah. The Yud enters the Hey, and that is the constant Eros of reality. That is reality. That is intimacy. That is the intimate universe. That's the field of electromagnetism. It's the strong and the weak nuclear. It's the gravitational, right? All of the Higgs boson fields. It's all the leptons, hadrons, and muons. It's the whole thing that's actually literally pulsing in reality in this very moment. And then the second two letters of the four-letter name of God is Vav Hey. So the Yud pulled down is a Vav, and the Vav enters the Hey. So the line enters the circle, just like in the first two letters, the Yud entered the Hey. So the line enters the circle, the Vav enters the Hey, and that's the arousal of the field of desire. That's my participation in the script of desire. That is conscious evolution when the script of desire of reality becomes uniquely conscious in me and in my life through my script of desire and my conscious ability to up-level and evolve and deepen my own script of desire. I participate in rewriting the script of desire of reality. The Yud enters the Hey, the Vav enters the Hey. The Yud entering the Hey, the electromagnetic field, the four forces. The Vav entering the Hey, the field of Eros, of desire, desire for intimacy, come consciously alive uniquely in the human field, both personally in my life, in my scripts of desire, and in the cultural scripts of desire that define the polis, that define the politics of reality. And of course, we need politics of Eros. We need a culture of Eros. And a culture of Eros means a culture rooted in a shared script of desire. Okay, so let's all come back for a second. Okay, let's see each other again. Okay, so it's beautiful. So let's go slow. So we have this Aramaic text, just you can feel this in the lineage. The Aramaic text says that she, istakel baraita, she looks into she gazes at Torah, at the text, ubara alama, and she manifests reality. And what is the text? What's the Torah? Step 2, names of God. Torah is the name of God, right? Torah is the name of God. Wow. And just feel that with me for a second. Feel that with me. But the Torah is one particular script of desire. It's one particular way of writing the name of God. And there's no split between me and the text. I am the Torah, and I am the great literature of the Sufis, and I am the great literature of the best of the Jesuits and the Desert Fathers. So my I is a unique script of desire that participates in the script of desire of the whole. So let's see the name of God again, but this time embodied in the human being, just to get an image of it. So another way, right, to feel into, so that's a human being, person, right, man or woman. So in the lineage masters, the Yud is the head. The head enters the upper carriage, shoulders, right? The hay, shoulders, right? The upper carriage of the human being. The Yud enters the hay. The Vav, right? The Vav is phallus or yoni, right? That dimension, right, of the human being, which is phallus yoni line circle that lives in every human being, that enters the hay, the lower carriage of the human being, right? And again, this is an image, but the point of the image is that I am the name of God, which means I participate in the field of desire. I'm not separate from the field of desire. So let's come back together. Meaning there's a field of Eros, there's a field of desire. And I don't just live in the field of desire. Anyone finish the sentence for me? Finish the sentence for me in the chat box. I don't just live in the field of desire. Someone finish the sentence for me. Finish it for me. The field of desire lives in me. I am the field of desire. So my script of desire influences the entire field. That's what we mean by conscious evolution. It means the field of desire becomes awake and alive in me. And as I, in my journey of transformation, which is a journey to rewrite my own scripts of desire, my unique script of desire, which is my unique self. My unique self is my unique Torah. My unique Torah, my unique Rumi poem, my unique letter in the cosmic scroll of desire, my unique letter in the cosmic scroll of desire is my unique self. My unique self is my unique script of desire. My unique script of desire is evolution becoming uniquely conscious through me. That's what conscious evolution means. Like, wow, right? Does everyone begin to get this? It's like, okay. Now stay close, friends. It's so beautiful, right? Right. Let's step out of our heads. Just feel it in your body. And I want to hear kind of go to the body for a second, because the script of desire cannot be disembodied. The body is insufficient, but the body is absolutely necessary. If you bypass the body, if you bypass the desire that pulsates in the body is a quivering, pulsating field of desire. That's what the body is. The baby is, right? The early psychoanalysts pointed out what all of the great wisdom traditions knew, what the great Islamic mystics knew, and the great Hebrew mystics knew. And at their best, right, the Magdalene mystics knew. The body is polymorphously perverse. And polymorphously perverse means the body is a field of desire. And the baby desires. He desires He desires to be held in the arm of the mother. And the baby desires to touch, and to be touched, right? And when we can actually live in the goodness of that field of desire, we have direct access to knowing, to truth, right? And sometimes I'm going to create my field of desire by painting a painting for every sonnet of Shakespeare. That might be one way in, right? Everyone's got their own unique configuration of desire, but I've got to be in the field of desire. When I'm in the goodness of that desire, I realize there's no split between love and desire. And there's no split between love and intelligence, because intelligence is not technical, right? Intelligence isn't technical. Intelligence is the omniconsiderant movement of reality towards ever deeper contact and ever greater wholeness. That's intelligence. Intelligence is the depth, the unimaginable, stunning beauty, erotic beauty of a proton, which is not three quarks, although three quarks become a proton, but a proton is an entirely different field of intelligence. but it's a field of Eros intelligence. It's a field of Eros value. A proton is a new quality of Eros that can potentiate new reality that's potent erotically in new ways, that can generate, right, new possibilities of life. That's the intelligence of a proton. It's a love intelligence, but that love intelligence is bound up, is intimately and intricately inter-included in a love desire, right? The proton desires the neutron, and they desire together, right, the circling of, right, the electron. And that love desire and love intelligence is filled with mad beauty that includes all contradictions, because that's what beauty is. All opposites become woven together in a larger paradox, which is intimacy, shared identity in the context of otherness. That's the ultimate paradox, which is the ultimate beauty, because beauty is the holding of paradoxes. Read Whitehead in Process and Reality. Unreadable book, but read it anyways, right? He understands correctly, and I'm with him. I've always understood beauty that way. Beauty is all of the contradictions woven together into this stunning whole. That's beauty. So the love intelligence and the love beauty and the love desire of reality, that is, can you believe that? That's Eros value. And that lives in me, as me, and through me. That is the name of God. And I am, wrote Angus, I am the name of God, but I'm a unique name of God, right? So Angus is a name of God, quite literally, which is Rabia, one of my favorite women in the world. Rabia, the great Islamic mystic. Rabia says something like, right, she lives like 717, right? You know, and one of my favorite Rabia poems is, you know, Rabia writes, "One day he did not leave after kissing me." And Rabia is an erotic mystic, right? And, you know, there's a place where she writes, and see if I can find it now. Right, where is it? It's like right here. Right, she writes, it's about the name. She writes that everyone has to find their own name of God. Because I'm a unique configuration of desire means I am a unique name of God, and I have a unique way to call God. Right? Can you feel that, everybody? Right? Can you feel that, everybody? Stay close. Right? So Rabia, the great Islamic mystic, writes, would you come if someone called you by the wrong name? Would you come if someone called you by the wrong name? And when we're about to explode, right after we've crossed that line in sensuality, and we call our beloved's name, and our beloved calls our name, would you come if someone called you by the wrong name? And you can understand and feel the textured nature of that writing. I wept because for years he did not enter my arms, is Rabia writing. Then one night I was told a secret. Perhaps the name you call God is not really his, not really hers. Maybe it's just an alias. Stay close. Maybe it's just an alias. And Rabia writes, I thought about this and came up with a pet name. I came up with a pet name for my beloved. I never mentioned to others. All I can say is, writes Rabia, all I can say is, it works. And your pet name for God, the name for God that moves out of and emerges from your unique configuration of desire, which is you as a unique name of God that never was, is, or will be ever again, which is your direct participation in the field of value, where you know value to be true and value knows you, right? That's your unique script of desire. Your unique name of God, the pet name that you call the divine, your own nickname given to you by she that loves you so, that's your unique script of desire. Your unique script of desire is the unique name of she, of he that lives in you, right, as you and through you. Wow. Cha. Okay, so this is part one. We got through part one today. We just began. We just began. Okay, we together? We together, everyone? Let's look at the code. Let's look at the code one more time. Okay, let's look at the code. Can we look at the code? Let's look at the code, okay? Let's read it together. Right? A wise man once said, What we think is less than what we know. What we know is less than what we love. Right? Loving is a deeper form of knowing. That's the point. Right? Right here he's playing. Right? What we love is so much less than what there is. And to that precise extent, we're so much less than what we are. So to be what we are, we need to love. We need to love every moment open. And I can only love the moment open through my unique script of desire. And it's my unique script of desire is my unique gift to this unique moment. And it's only me in this moment that can love this moment open within my circle of intimacy and influence that no one else in the world can love open. So I'm living in my unique circle of Eros, my unique circle of desire, my unique circle of intimacy and influence, and my unique circle might be my immediate family. And if I'm actually feeling it to homo amor, it's also my place in the unique self symphony here in One Mountain, Many Paths to participate in the evolution of love. And so my unique script of desire is my unique capacity to love this moment open in a way that no one that ever was, is, or will be can do. Meaning my name is a unique name of God, and my name participates in the name of God. And the name of God is somehow misspelled. The name of God is misspelled, right? If my name, my letter is not in the name of God. If my unique name is not in the name of God, then the name of God is misspelled. It's distorted. I have a unique gift to give to she. Rabba emunatecha, right? The text of the lineage, which is usually translated Rabba emunatecha, great is my trust in you, God, is actually more accurately translated Rabba, outrageous, great is your trust in me, God. She, the name, trusts me to live my name, which is why when we make love, we call the name of the beloved. And making love, again, making love doesn't mean a formal act of particular kind of coitus. Making love means I'm kissing your shoulder. Making love means we're looking in each other's eyes. Making love means you're kissing my belly. Making love means, right, just kissing your hand in that one moment. Making love means we're just deep in creating reality together, right? Heart to heart, right? In the palace of holy imagination. So let's read. To be what we are, we need to love and love madly, because we only know what we love madly. The only sanity is to love mad. We only love what we know. And when we know, we begin to feel. Because the universe is love intelligence. The universe feels and the universe feels love. So it's only when I know I can begin to feel. When I begin to feel, we begin to think. You know, a scientist can't disclose the intelligence of reality unless they're madly in love with truth. Yet there's a wild, ecstatic love in science, right? Like, wow. Let's just try and track that for a second. Steven Weinberg, right, talks about how he can't find the point of the universe. And then in the next sentences, he talks about how he's madly in love with knowing the truth of muons. Right? But when he's looking for the point that he can't find, he's thinking about the point and he's rebelling against correctly old fundamentalist religions. What he didn't realize when he wrote that is that there's actually a deeper cosmic story of value, which is a story of desire, which is Robert, right? Which is his, Steven Weinberg's desire to know the truth of muons and to uniquely contribute it to physics in a way that no one else that ever was, is, or will be could. I have a unique gift to give, which is my unique script of desire. And to the precise extent, we're going to get to this next week, to the precise extent that I'm alienated from my script of desire, I'm taking the name of God in vain. If I'm alienated from my script of desire, I'm taking the name of God in vain. I am a sacred text. A sacred text is a script of desire. But I have to be constantly rewriting my sacred text, constantly evolving my sacred text, constantly evolving my name. And only then we can begin together to engage in the sensuality of sense making. Right? Love and knowledge are not separate. Eros and Gnosis are not separate. We have unique scripts of desire, and yet we participate in the one desire. We're both radically unique. And yet we're the same, which is why we can talk to each other. It's why we understand each other now. It's why we have the shared field together. It's why we're not ultimately lonely, because there's a one Eros in which we all participate. When I talk about, right, everything we've talked about today, we recognize it inside of ourselves. There's not one word I shared that was new today that we didn't recognize living in some way inside of us. And even though each one of us might have heard this Dharma uniquely, we come together in intimate communion because we also heard it together, because even as we're all unique, we're all the same. That's one of the first principles and first values of reality, which is why we can have common sense, because we have a common sensuality. Because there's actually one desire and one Eros and one value and one breath, right? And one love. Now, let's go to the last step. With this, we finish. To heal reality, we have to actually heal our narratives of desire, our stories of desire. And we can't split desire from sexual desire. The desire of the sexual is the model for Eros. The sexual models the erotic. It doesn't exhaust the erotic, but it models Eros. And when we have broken stories of desire in the sexual, then we have broken stories of desire in the political and in the economic. And just like we need to heal the abuse of the sexual abuses that have run rampant in the world, which are the abuses of desire, which are distorted and degraded scripts of desire in the personal, we need to heal the abuse of the sensual, the abuse of desire, the degradation of our shared scripts of desire in the political and in the economic. We need to heal the body, and we need to heal the body politic. We need to actually evolve the quality of Eros and desire as it lives in me, as me, and through me. I need to actually go back and recover the native innocence of my desire. Not a first innocence, but actually after I've gone through everything, all of the complexity, all of the guilt, I get to a second innocence. And I know that I'm ever, always, already pure and beautiful. After I've gone through all the tragic, I get to the post-tragic. And I feel the beauty and the wonder of my inflamed desire. Just as I do that in the personal, I need to do it in the political. And the early feminists weren't wrong when they said the personal is the political. We'll just add that the political has to be the cosmic. We can only have a politics today, which is a politics of Eros, which is rooted in a realization that there's a shared field of desire, and the shared field of desire is a shared field of value, and that we all can access it. And I want to tell you something, just really, and we'll end with this, and I'll turn to Krista. The reason that the brutalized men of ISIS, the Islamic State, of jihad, the culture of death, which denies the field of desire, the reason the brutalized men of Hamas, and they were brutalized by a degraded script of desire, the reason they had to be given particular kinds of amphetamines in extremely large doses, their pockets were filled with them, both the Islamic State, ISIS people, and the Hamas men, is because the body is good, and the body is a script of desire, and it's a script of sacred desire. So the body had to be distorted, right, through this lethal destruction of ethos and Eros in the body, which up-leveled massively aggression and down-leveled and destroyed and turned off all of the empathos in the body in order to be butchers. Because otherwise the body rebels. right? The state of the body is always mediated through its story of desire. But even when you raise these kids in an utterly degraded story of desire, the body still rebels. But it's not enough. So then you have to enter the body and degrade it and distort it even more, right through amphetamines overdosed in the extreme. The reason that Hamas today denies having committed the atrocities is because actually it's not just that it's politically appropriate, but actually they can't own it, right? Because when they're not in that state of body distortion, their bodies themselves know that it's a great violation. There's actually an implicit common sense that still lives in everyone. And that's the beginning of hope. Hope is a memory of our common sense, which is our common field of value. Hope is a memory of value that lives already, ever already, in us, as us, and through us, in our bodies themselves. It's only when we're not listening to the murmurings of Eros, which are the murmurings of the sacred in the body, which is the story of value, which is the script of desire, which is intrinsic to cosmos, that I have to write false scripts of desire. In every form of degraded ideology is a false script of desire. Every sacred text that speaks against the intrinsic nature and eros of cosmic value and cosmic desire is idolatry. Idolatry is false scripts of desire. So what we're going to come together here to do, the entire revolution that we're here together, right? Whether it's in the scripts of desire of the I, who am I? The Unique Self Institute. Whether it's the scripts of desire of sexuality, the phenomenology of Eros, right? Whether it's the scripts of desire of the ought, right? Which is the entire project of homo amor and anthro-ontology. Whether it's through oral essays, right? Whether it's through books, whether it's through the crossing, right? Whether it's through mystery school, right? Whether it's through One Mountain, right? Whether it's a new vision of relationship from role-mate to soulmate to whole-mate. What is that? Role-mate is one script of desire. Soulmate is the second script of desire, and whole-mate's a third script of desire. These three levels of relationship that we always talk about, those are new scripts of desire. It's all about everything we're doing is about scripts of desire. And the more I rewrite and evolve and clarify my own script of desire, the more I can participate. As Da Vinci, we can be Da Vinci together. The lead author of all of our work is David J. Temple, a pseudonym we created. We can be David J. Temple together, and we can write the new library. We can write the great library of value because we've become clarified value. We've become clarified desire. So what we're going to do next week, which is part 2, is how do I, in my own life, clarify my own script of desire, my own script of desire erotically, sexually, creatively, right? The script of my body's psyche, and my body's drama, and my body's history, and my body's trauma, right? Because there is no love story without the transformation of trauma, right? There is no love story without the transformation of trauma. The transformation of trauma is a core to the love story, which is why in the lineage, we talk about the shattering of the vessels, the breaking of the vessels, which precedes the eros of manifestation, which manifests the universal love story. So next week, we're going to talk about how do we go into our own scripts of desire as homo amor to participate together in writing the new scripts of desire at this moment, this time between worlds and time between stories. So mad appreciation. I'm so madly appreciative of everyone and everyone who was able to kind of hang in and stay through. Right? Thank you. I turned to Krista. We did it. Okay. Right. Wow. Amen.